Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
4 and about a year ago, the two of us and our good friend Vega created a podcast called the Holy Moment Podcast, where we watch movies with you and discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and the moments that reflect truth in fantastic ways. I forgot the line. Anyhow, can anyone guess what movie we're watching today? That's right, Lincoln. Lincoln. I was quoting the famous speech, Gettysburg Address. How are you doing, Nathaniel? Are you ready to discuss politics? You look ready to discuss politics.
Oh, well, you son bitch. My plan was to come in with the impersonation of Lincoln, which is just an old man because I'm really bad at impersonations, but you stole it from me. So now I have no opening to be funny. But yes, I am ready to discuss politics, tall people with beards and top hats, and lying and manipulation. And you can tell because if you're watching the podcast, everyone, I'm wearing a suit today with a little handkerchief because I'm an aristocratic person. Very, very aristocratic I am today, yes.
Yeah, like if you're bad at impressions, then you're not bad at cosplay, it would seem. Yes. Whereas I look like a leprechaun.
It's become one of my favorite things. It's like we're about to record the podcast. It's like 9:45 and I go into my closet and I'm like, what's like the vaguest idea of this movie? And for me, it is a black suit with a orange tie looking thing because that kind of feels oldie.
It kind of looks brown from my perspective.
It's
no,
like
I'll tell you what happened.
Brown.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened, folks. I opened the Discord call. I saw my good friend Nathaniel Lirio dressed to the nines. I was thinking, like, what do I do, right? I've got to dress in theme. And so I find this hat, which belongs to a lederhosen, right? And then I found this nice green tie that I wore as a groomsman to my good friend Nathaniel's wedding and threw it on, and voila, a perfect St. Paddy's Day outfit.
You look like a gay version of the Riddler in a musical on Broadway.
I could see that. I could also see myself as like boy band adjacent, right? It wasn't this popular kind of like the early 2000s, like a fedora and
the tie maybe
a loose
but
tie.
Like, not the hair and hat. Looks great, but you're not sexy swooning boy band. You're gay Riddler Broadway. Just put on some fishnets and ooh, hot.
Maybe I should invest in some fishnets. Yeah. Complete the look. I'll go to Walmart right now.
That's beautiful. You know who is also fishing?
Jesus.
Fishing
for men.
I was hoping you were going to connect it back to the podcast, to the movie Lincoln, but I did not set you up well enough. I apologize.
It's all good, folks. We're talking Lincoln, folks. Directed by the illustrious Steven Spielberg, whom we all know and love. At least I hope. Tell me, Nathaniel, did this feel like a Spielberg movie to you?
It 100% did because I had no idea it was a Spielberg movie, and I finished it up, and then I wanted to see the actor who played Lincoln because I'm horrible with actors' names. Something I like about the podcast. It's forcing me to know directors, producers, actors more and more. So ever so slightly, I like being able to do an episode and be like, remember how we watched that movie last season? How it connects to this? I know movies. I like that feeling. So I wanted to know who the actor was because I thought whoever played Abe Lincoln did a phenomenal job. And so I stuck around for the credits and I found out it was a Spielberg movie. And as soon as it came on, I exclaimed to no one in the room because I watched it and I said, that felt like a Spielberg movie. And that's it.
Lo and behold, it's a Spielberg movie.
It felt the most Spielberg-y, and I feel like the color, because it felt like a pretty different movie than Spielberg usually does. But the color, the richness of the world, the magicalness of it, even though it was very grounded in our real world, that's what felt the most Spielberg to me. Anyways, just want to say that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, actually, I don't really think color when I think Spielberg, but there were plenty of shots in this movie that were very painter-esque. Like I could see some 19th century romantic era painter. Perhaps that's the wrong era. Who cares? This is a movie podcast.
We don't do history. Guys, warning, we're going to try and do history and politics today. It's not going to go well. We majored in film. We don't know about the government.
Well, fortunately, I will say I read most of the biography that this movie is based on. And it's really funny because the movie picks up where I left off. And so I cannot verify the truthfulness of this movie, but it was cool to recognize some names, some people.
So what I'm hearing is, since you didn't finish the book, you're skeptical that Lincoln even set the slaves free. You don't even know if that's
Lincoln
true.
couldn't have died, right? He's the main character.
Oh, I have thoughts about that ending, but we'll get into that at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I also have thoughts on the ending. But anyhow, yeah, you mentioned Daniel Day-Lewis, the actor of Lincoln, legendary actor. He's usually who people think of when they think The Method, because he gets so immersed in his work. And he's been very selective about the movies he's been in lately. I think he's gone on like 2 multi-year hiatuses, and I think he's coming back for a movie that his daughter is directing. Great portrayal of Lincoln by him. I think he captures the vibe and the gravitas, right? The somberness, yet also the playfulness that Lincoln had in life. And also, he is sort of a tenor, and that's what Lincoln was. He was a high-voiced sort of guy, and a lot of people think it's, very deep voice, 7 years. But no, it's more like 7 years.
I didn't know. Usually we ask ourselves, how much do we know about this movie going in? Do we know who directed it? Do we know the plot? Yada, yada. The real question is, how much did you know about Abraham Lincoln going into this? And I guess for you, a good amount, because you're reading his autobiography.
Yeah. I felt very smart watching this movie because I was able to say, oh, that's true to Lincoln, right? I know this guy. I've become intimately acquainted over the course of like 500 pages.
We had different experiences, because I felt really stupid during this movie because I didn't know anything about Lincoln and I don't know anything about the government. And so I was kind of playing catch up the whole movie. I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? The Republicans are the radicals. I thought it was the Democrats who were the radicals. I was so confused, so lost.
Yeah, I mean, politics, it's very different
They
between
evolved.
then and now. And the party's very different between then and now. But that's a good point, that there's a lot of talking, a lot of technical political jargon, right? And I think that this movie, this screenplay, I should say, would have very easily translated into like a radio drama. Just put in the sound effects to indicate, pop, he's been shot, right?
End of radio drama. That's it. It's just Jeffrey's voice going, pop, he's been shot.
Yeah, we should make that happen. We should do it better, right? We've seen this movie. It's good. We can do it better.
Yeah.
Spielberg, eat our shorts.
No, but it is true that like it is very much a drama through and through. It is very much talking heads, and granted, we watched Steve Jobs, and that movie is just 3 scenes of people talking in one room. That's like it. But this movie still somehow felt less, I don't want to say boring, because it wasn't. Like I overall enjoyed my experience with it, and it was really well acted and really well written, but it really was a bunch of people in one room talking, and then a bunch of people in another room talking. And then you do that for 2.5 hours, and then the movie ends. And, ultimately, isn't that every movie ever? But I don't know. I wish there was a little bit of breaking it up with something else going on. And
Yeah.
instead of there being action, the something else we got was the subplot of Mrs. Lincoln kind of going insane and being just a real crazy woman.
I mean, she definitely was very high strung, but there were definitely scenes where she pushed Lincoln to do the right thing in moments. And that was accurate to their relationship. She could be a bit of a handful at times. And there were moments where Lincoln felt that he had to sort of tolerate her. But at the end of the day, she was a fierce supporter of her husband, and he did love her. And the movie captured that.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Like what she's been through with the death of her child, and just cannot imagine being the wife to the president under like the microscope as he's trying to end slavery. I'm just understandably a lot of stress. So I'm not like picking at her honor as a person, but I just thought it was funny. There was just a great ending scene, like near the end of the movie, where they officially got the 13th Amendment passed and slavery. Spoiler warning: slavery has ended by the end of this movie. And she's just in a carriage ride with Lincoln. And she's like, oh, I'm so sad. And he's like, why? And she's like, history's going to remember you as being a great man. History's going to remember me as being a whiny, complaining woman. And I just thought it was funny. that she just like thought so lowly of herself. And again, I cannot like, I'm talking about the characters I saw on screen, guys. I am not talking about the real Mrs. Lincoln or Mr. Lincoln because I don't know anything about them. I've seen photos. I studied a little bit in a 8th grade history class. He was shot. He was tall and he was named Honest Abe, and that's all I know. So everything I say today, it's about the movie characters, not about real life circumstances.
Yeah, one interesting thing about Lincoln is the way he walked, and this is described in several letters, is sort of an odd way of walking because he would lift his whole foot, and then rather than having it land on his like toes, and then he would just lift the whole foot and then set the whole thing flat on the ground. Does that make sense?
Oh, what I'm hearing is Obama was not the first lizard president. Abraham Lincoln was a lizard president, or at least a robot president.
All the presidents are lizards.
That's what I'm saying.
Nathaniel.
Guys, we're not here to discuss a movie. We're here to talk politics, hard facts. Everyone in politics, lizard people.
Always has been. Always will be, too. But I will say, to a point that you mentioned earlier about your experience with the movie, you used the word boring. My first time watching this movie was when I was in high school, I think early high school, when it came out in theaters. And at that point, I had no idea that I would become a film major. In fact, I didn't really give movies a ton of thought back then. But I remember coming out of that theater and thinking, wow, I think that this is what cinema is. And the reason I came out with that impression was because it was long and boring. No, I don't mean that seriously, right? I enjoyed it a lot. But my thinking was, long and boring, there must be something to it.
That's really funny, actually.
But again, folks, yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for long and boring. And so this is right up my alley. I thoroughly enjoy long and boring. Unless it's Mr. Turner. Don't watch that movie. It sucks. Watching paint dry.
You know what? It's such a shame because it's like overall, it's beautiful. It's, again, really, you're going to hear me say really well acted and really well written because that's all I know what to say about this movie. Maybe we'll get into something deeper, but it was really well acted and really well written. And it was 2.5 hours long, and that was it. So you know what I think would have been better and what I would have enjoyed more? A mini-series, a limited mini-series with a little bit of the Civil War action. And again, I get that's not the point. This is like more of like Abe Lincoln's perspective and story. So like, but I think that would make me a little more enticed. You know, so like more like 45-minute episodes because you get such great awesome scenes. I'm excited to delve into some of the scenes and the conversations and some of the actors. They're so lively. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a movie where for even a moment did I feel like these were actors or like these could be other people with other lives. No, this was Abe Lincoln. This was Mrs. Lincoln. This was the Secretary of State. This was the one dude that yelled a lot in the courtroom. I don't know any of their names. Okay. Fun fact, but I know they were good actors. But the point is,
I love how you're like, I don't know any other names. You didn't list any names.
I did. I said Mrs. Lincoln and Mr. Lincoln.
Oh, but yeah, but the guy that yells in the courtroom.
Okay, you know who I'm talking about. The guy who had a wig was married to a black lady. The point is
Stevens.
Yes. The point is, there were so many names, Jeffrey. They had to have lower thirds for every single person that came on screen because there was just a billion white old men in this movie. But the point is, there was such gripping, great acting and scenes so that I would have enjoyed it if it was just like 2 or 3 of those scenes for 45 minutes with intercut of like an interesting B storylines like of the Civil War. So
yeah,
it felt like this beautiful demonstration, but maybe not told in the most effective way that cinema can capture live action. And when I say live action, I don't just mean fighting. I mean the physicality. But what we did get, I will say, was gorgeous and beautiful. And very good to look at.
Yeah, and there were some moments of visual storytelling that I thought were very effective, and we'll talk about that later. I think you would like the miniseries John Adams, which stars Paul Giamatti as John Adams, and it takes place more around the Revolutionary period. Very good. I watched it with my dad. But moving on from that, one thing I thought that they captured very well is the book that it's based on is called Team of Rivals. And it's called Team of Rivals because when the Republicans were trying to nominate someone from among their ranks to campaign against the Democratic nominee for president, right? So this is like a pre-election for the election. Like, who are the Republicans going to nominate to be their nominee? The people that were at the top, there was William H. Seward, who became a Secretary of State. That's the right-hand man of Lincoln in the movie, right? The one that was talking to the people who were organizing and getting people to vote in the House. There was Salmon Chase, who later became his treasurer. And there was Edmund Bates, or Edward Bates, I think it's Edmund, who became the Attorney General, right? And all three of these people had much bigger followings, right? And more notoriety and more education and more connections than Lincoln. And it was a fierce battle between them. Meanwhile, Lincoln, he's off to the side, and his goal is not to be everyone's number one candidate. It's to be everyone's second candidate. And that's essentially what happened. The three were fiercely competing against each other, such that when it came time to find a compromise candidate, none of them wanted to vote for each other, and so they voted for Lincoln, right? Now, the thing that made him special was after he was nominated and after he became president, the members of his circle of advisors, his cabinet, he chose those very people that ran against him. Very strong personalities, and he had to juggle these personalities and these competing interests. And these people who are, in some way, still adversarial against each other and against Lincoln. He had to find a way to make them have peace with each other and forge ahead with his vision. And even though we didn't see that with his cabinet, we saw how he juggled different personalities and different political interests, and how he had to strike compromise in areas that perhaps we wouldn't have wanted him to compromise if we were existing in the day, right? And so that movie captures that drama very well, right? Just the realities of politicking and how we can't always be the most radical or the most freedom for all right now. He had to do some maneuvering, and he was an expert maneuverer.
I loved that about his character, and I assume about him in real life, was his ability, I don't want to say to play the room, because he didn't come across as this crafty manipulator, but he came across as this person that saw the whole picture and knew when to hold his cards. He knew when to show restraint. Showing restraint can sometimes be way more difficult than actually taking the action. We see this time and time again when their eldest son, who I do not remember the name of, so I'm going to call him young Mr. Lincoln. I'm going to call him medium Mr. Lincoln, because young Mr. Lincoln would be their youngest son who is alive. So middle Mr. Lincoln is like 18. He came back from college and he wants to join the revolution. And they're like, no. Like that, Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln are like, no, you can't. You'll go die. We'll be so sad. We only lost one son. We can't lose another. But the son, medium Mr. Lincoln, calls his dad out on this. He's like, no, you're just stalling. You're just doing all this BS. You're telling me we have to go here. We have to go here. It's your favorite tactic. It's stalling. And so you see it even doing it with his own family. He has to keep everyone at a certain distance to hold his cards close to when he can play it, it actually matters. And so I really enjoyed his way of doing politics, because it wasn't forcefully manipulative, but it also wasn't passive. Because like what Jeffrey was saying, he is this person that realizes, hey, we cannot be so radical, because if we are just to the tenth radical, nothing's going to get passed. The slaves will not go free. But also, I feel like you see that in a lot of like modern day politics, where it's like, well, we can't be too radical. We can't actually get what we want. We can't stop this or pass this or do this or help these people because it's too much. So they really just do the barest minimal or nothing at all. But I feel like, Lincoln absolutely did a huge thing with the 13th Amendment, absolutely changed human history as we know it. So he's not like someone who's just passive and is like, well, we can't really do anything, so we'll just keep the status quo. But he's not such an aggressor. He holds his cards close, and he's also charismatic. He embodies all these really weird traits into one person that you don't see very often. He's charismatic, but he's quiet and can hold his own. He's a storyteller, but he also can be kind of shy sometimes. He's very kind, but also can be very forceful and get what he wants. So he really was this well-crafted human that I really enjoyed watching.
He can be very jolly, right? He can be very friendly, and he can be a jokester. But he always carries with him this melancholy. Yeah, and that's something that people, his contemporaries, would note about him. There's always that melancholy, but there's also that ability to persevere, have good spirits, but also like the ability to lock in when he needed to lock in.
And that's why you love watching him. I'm never for like, oh, the greater good. You have to abandon your family, abandon your loved ones for your greater duty. I'm not like, I don't think that's a good way to live your life. I do not think we should use our stage and our platform to neglect our loved ones. But what I did like about him, you got this sense of a great heaviness on his shoulders. Like this was a pivotal point in American history. And if he did not clutch the win, then everything he stood for is going to fall apart. Like he carried a melancholy, which I'm sure because he was dealing with so much in politics, dealing with the death of his young son that he carried with him. There's a lot of reasons for his heaviness. But I like that he feels like this larger than life character of like, I'm carrying such a huge duty on my shoulders that if it doesn't happen, literally the whole entire world, the rest of human history will be worse off. And that's like such a cool thing that some humans have actually carried that weight on their shoulders. And it's so impressive that he did it. He did it with dignity and he succeeded. I think it's just such a crazy story.
The reason he's got a big ass statue.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there is a big statue of him. Too bad it got destroyed in, I think, what, Transformers 3, The Dark Side of the Moon. So sad.
Well, that's a movie I haven't seen.
Oh, I
Flipping
love
the script, yeah.
Yeah. Shame Jeffrey, everyone. Comment down below how Jeffrey sucks. Email us at the Holy Moment Podcast saying Jeffrey is a fake film critic who hasn't seen Transformers 3, Dark Side of the Moon.
You're right. I've got to educate myself on the Michael Bay Transformer movies. Otherwise, I can't say that I'm a true film fan.
I'm just saying, those Transformer movies slap. They have everything you want. Great CGI, robots, hot women. I'm like, cinema. You know, when I left the movie theater watching that movie, I went, that's cinema. Wasn't long, wasn't boring. It was beautiful. Okay, it was long, but it was not boring.
That's such a funny image. Like just the contrasting pictures of what young me came out of the movie theater thinking is cinema and what you came out of the movie theater thinking is cinema.
I mean,
drastically different reasons.
That's the great thing about cinema and filmmakers and directors. You know, there's no one right answer when it comes to making movies. There's so many different ways of making it. Have you not heard of Lincoln the Vampire Slayer? That's a movie.
That's true.
And there's also this Lincoln.
I really want to see that. Honestly, I might see this at some point later this week.
Yeah, that would be a fun
as like a companion
afterwards.
piece, as a chaser.
That's a crazy way to describe that, but very, very apropos. But anyways, I was all I wanted to say was the character of Lincoln from the moment we saw him on screen, he was larger than life, literally so tall, so not menacing, but larger than life, exciting, mythical, and just throughout the whole movie, his character was so mysterious. Just how he could win a room over with his laughter and his stories, and then how he could command a room with his voice if he needed to, but then how he could sit in sorrow. But like Jeffrey said, I really loved how he was always carrying around this certain amount of melancholy and anything that he did, and it just helped the urgency of like, whatever this man is doing, it is with extreme importance.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned too his relationship with his son and how he handled that, right? That makes me think of a great moment of visual storytelling, right? Again, because this is a very talky movie, but there was one moment that really stuck with me visually, and that's when Lincoln takes his older son Robert to a camp where soldiers are being treated for various wounds. And his son is like, listen, I've been in these camps before. I've seen wounded soldiers, right? Nothing that you show me is going to convince me otherwise, right? Because I want to enlist, right? That's his whole deal is he wants to enlist. And of course, his parents don't want him to because, you know, they're at the cusp of ending this war. How tragic would it be if he died before peace was had? And so, you know, they go to a sick house. Lincoln goes in by himself. Robert is outside. All of a sudden, he's passed by this man wheeling a cart. And there's blood trickling from that cart. And it's a lot of blood, right? And so it creates a very clean line on the ground. It's out of curiosity, like the cart's covered in some tarp. We don't know what's in it. So Robert follows the cart until finally it's led to this pit where bodies are being dumped. And the guy lifts the cart and all of the contents fall out. And it's not just bodies, right? That'd be one thing. Amputated limbs. And that was such a striking image to me, both as an audience member, but also to Robert. He's not seeing the soldiers that are being taken care of, right, and are wounded. He is seeing their lifeless arms and legs, all the things that they have lost. And it's grotesque. And he sort of collapses, so it's like heaving and crying at that. And I think it's sort of a testament to his zeal and the fire of his purpose that he still wants to enlist after that. But it was very emotionally effective.
I love the end of that scene for just that reason. I thought it was going to be, he saw because he's telling his dad, you can't scare me away. This won't deter me. And then he sees the limbs. And so I thought it was going to be like, this is what did it. It deterred him. He's going to go tell his dad, you're right, I won't. But then when he told his dad, he doubled down. He was like, if I don't do this, I will regret it for the rest of my life. And so, I thought it was really cool to see that character, to see something. It moves him. It didn't strike fear in him. It moved him to want to defend his land, defend his country. Also, I will
think
say
there was a moment of sort of like stumbling over himself, and he's questioning his purpose for a moment, but him confronting that, and choosing instead to forge on ahead is what makes it all the more impressive to me.
Yeah, fully agree. And just to wrap it back to the beginning of the episode, it was by far, in my opinion, the most Spielberg-y feeling scene in the whole movie. As soon as I saw Spielberg at the end of the movie, I immediately thought of that scene. And I think it's because it's one of the most action-ish scenes. We have the most kind of like moving pieces. We have these body parts. It just felt the most alive in a lot of ways. And so it just reminded me of Spielberg is all.
It's a scene that could not have worked nearly as well if it were attempted in any other medium.
Well, give it a try. Do your voice audio. What a radio audio show? You said this could be a radio show. So, radio show this scene.
All right, okay. You play the role of Lincoln about to head into the sick house by yourself, and I'll be the son.
All right.
I don't care what you think, Pa. This isn't gonna scare me.
I bitch slap you.
Oh!
You listen here. I am the commander in chief. No war for my son. I bitch slap you again.
Oh!
And then I go into the house.
Stupid daddy doesn't understand me. It's not just a face.
I'm sorry. Thud, 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 thud. Closed door.
But what is this? Yonder over that hill. A cart. And there's a stream of some sort of red syrup.
Drip, 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 drip.
Look at how it creates a pathway that I can very easily follow.
Plop, 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 plop.
Well, let me see where this yonder cart horse goes.
Creak. Thud.
Squish,
Thud,
squish,
thud, thud,
squish.
thud, thud.
He's walking over to the pit. He's here now. Oh no! Arms and legs?
Gas.
How grotesque!
And scene. Beautiful.
There we go.
That's it. Yeah, I think we can start. Isn't a podcast basically a radio audio thing? Besides, they can see us if they want to because we have video.
Case in point, that sucked. That was the stupidest thing we've ever done in this podcast. I hate you, Nathaniel, for making me do that.
I don't know what
My audience is going to think I'm stupid and I lack creativity and I don't have improv skills. Fuck you. Sorry, excuse me. We can bleep that out.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm making a reel out of that. That's peak the holy moment for sure.
No! Okay.
This is what's going to propel you forward. Soon, Jeffrey, you're going to method act just like David Day-Lewis did. You will be the next Lincoln, but probably you'll play Trump.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, moving on. Okay. Audiovisual. Fun fact. There are those scenes where we're hearing a clock tick, right? It's his little pocket watch.
Okay.
Right? It's going tick, 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 tick. One of the things that does for the movie is it makes it feel more urgent, right? Time is of limited supply, right? We have to pass this amendment soon. We have to end this war soon. I think it's very effectively utilized, good bit of sound design. But the ticking of that clock, what they did to get it was they actually got Lincoln's pocket watch from a museum. They wound it up, and then they let it go. And so that is the sound that he would have heard from his own pocket watch. And we were hearing it.
That's a really cool piece of lore. I did not know that. That is 100%. That's so cool.
Yeah, little details like that.
Yeah. I wish I could be honest and say that I remember that scene, but I do not.
Well, next time you watch it, if you decide to watch it again, it's sort of a motif that runs throughout the film. Various scenes where he's by himself in his study, and we hear that ticking of the clock. Speaking of his study, and speaking of just the mise en scène, right, the decor, the production design, and the lighting, especially of the interior scenes, so well executed. The light in the rooms, right, it felt very diegetic, right, like in the space. It didn't feel that it was being supplemented overly much, and it led to it lent itself to that melancholic feeling, and that feeling of, okay, now is the moment, right? It is now or never.
Yeah. Something that they did that I thought was once again good restraint on the director's end, Spielberg. I really liked that they almost always shot him, and it heavily had to do with the inspiration of the lighting, like it being nighttime, and also I don't,
Shot
yeah.
him. Did John Wilkes Booth make this movie?
Okay, okay, sir. But I don't think there was electricity back. Was there electricity in the 70s?
No, not at this point.
Okay, so the point being, they use that to their benefit. He was very contrasty, very shadowy. Very few times did you ever really see Lincoln's face in full like light. Did you notice that? Like,
Yeah.
he was always shot in silhouette. He was always like half his face you could only be seen, or shot from behind. They very, very rarely gave us a full look at his face. And I'm curious if that was a storytelling measure of something like there's a certain distance with Lincoln that you could never really approach. Again, a myth almost. He was like in the shadows, commanding and just living out this great story. That makes no sense. But the point of the story is I just was really fascinated it really gut punched me. Like the 3-4 times we saw his face fully lit up, it was really nice. It was really like warm. And I feel like I had an emotional reaction to that scene, those moments, because he was so often shot in shadow.
Yeah, but he was, by all metrics, a great man, right? Great not in the sense of, well, he's a swell guy, but um, he had this force of personality that people tended to be in awe of him, right? Once they got to know him. At first, he was sort of an unassuming, uneducated lawyer from Indiana, right? And no one would take him seriously. But as soon as he got to you, he really got to you. William H. Seward, Secretary of State, even when he was appointed as sort of his chief guy in his cabinet, he still had this thought in his head that, oh, I could probably very easily manipulate Lincoln because I have more experience in politics. He'll be the figurehead and I can run the show behind the scenes. But as they got to know one another, Seward gradually came to realize, no, this man is the man for the job and one of the greatest men that I know. And they became very close. Went from, staunch rival with duplicitous motives into a very loyal subordinate and friend.
Something I wanted to mention about, because you mentioned mise en scènes and how the movie did such a great job with it. First off, Jeffrey, I want to test your film degree knowledge, see if you got your money's worth. Can you tell the audience at home what mise en scène means?
Yeah, mise en scène is it has to do with the production design, the placement of decor, placement of the shot, placement of the actors, how the light creates the mood. All these things working together to create an environment, essentially.
Yeah. And I believe it's the French word, which means everything within the frame. So it's this idea of everything coming together in the moment within the frame, what is being captured to create this vibe, as you will. And anyway, so my favorite kind of mise en scène, the set, I loved the house. Anytime we were with the Republicans, Democrats arguing over a bill trying to be passed, I loved the environment, the vigor, all these men in wigs, and just everyone screaming, one side clapping and cheering, the other side booing. It felt like you're almost at a sporting event. And it was one of the few like locations where we got a lot of light, because obviously you're not going to hold these big governmental meetings at the middle of the night where a lot of these other conversations happen during the movie. So it was always daylight. So light was always seeping in and casting like where you can see like the dust floating in the sky because of like the sunlight. So it's just really beautiful, but contrasted by these some horrible men. And I love the energy that the scenes in the house brought. A lot of fun. And you get a lot of old people throwing really old slang and heckling each other. One of my favorites was who is the actor and the person he portrayed who was the one that was secretly married to an African American?
Yes. Yeah, I knew you were going in that direction. Tommy Lee Jones is Thaddeus Stevens. Fantastic performance. Played it with so much charisma, and he is definitely a force to be reckoned with, both as an actor and as a person of history.
Yeah, both amazing people. First off, Thaddeus is a sick name. I'd name a kid Thaddeus, I think. But he has a scene where he's ripping into one of the Democrats who's defending racism, and he's like, what was his line? Because it was so short, but like a punch to the gut. He basically was like, "You're a disgrace in the front of God, your words are noise or like clattering noise to all of us. And it just was like, oh, I wish I was alive. Like 1800s were thrown around just like these awesome one-liners, slaying people in front of everyone with your slick tongue.
We can bring that back.
Quick, make fun of me, but in a beautiful, articulate way.
Oh, all right. Okay, cool. Don't make me improv again, you bastard.
Wow, you really tore me down with that one.
I'll be honest with you, that wasn't even intentional. That came from the heart. Okay. All right. You know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna hit you with a really badass, like a really sick burn later in the episode, perhaps even after we've closed, and then you're gonna edit that. You're gonna edit that into that moment.
Oh, sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like you're telling the editor what to do, who has all the power.
That's true. Perhaps that's very unwise of me.
Well,
How about you do it then? You go ahead and try your hand at it.
your scruples are small and not delectable. There you go.
Not delectable. I love that detail at the end. Otherwise, it would have been like, okay, but that really heightened it.
You're welcome. But anyways,
What does a delectable scruple taste like?
Honey Nut Cheerios. With that being said, what was your favorite mise-en-scène of the whole movie?
Ooh, so
Do you get it,
the
Jeffrey?
most painterly shot.
Do you get it? Honey Nut
Honey
Cheerios?
Nut. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I get it now.
okay, back
Thanks
to
for
the-
pointing. Yeah.
You're welcome. Back to the answer.
So, the most painterly shot, perhaps, was the scene of the politicians, families, and friends of Lincoln surrounding his dead body.
Oh, really?
But also, anytime that he was alone in his study, the light shining through the sheer curtains,
Yeah.
and then the lamps that are barely lighting the room. Here's what I'll say: like that ending shot. It's not even the end, but that moment is very painterly. And I've said that word 1,000 times. I was kind of wondering if they would show his death on screen, and a part of me was wondering, hey, would it have been a cool decision if they hadn't ended with that, given that we've seen that 1,000 times, and then maybe it just sort of hints at his death. But like now, I'm just speculating on a movie that was never made.
Well, I have opinions on the. We both said at the beginning. I wonder if the audience goes through one day. Maybe we'll have a wiki page. Maybe we'll make it that big and be a big honor. If we do make it to a wiki page one day, and the people who are making this wiki page are listening to the old episodes, here's a challenge for you: go find all the times where we say, "Hey, that's for later in the episode. I'll bring it up later," and then we never ever do because I feel like it's a lot. Well, we said at the beginning of this episode we're going to bring up the end of this movie and talk about it later. Well, later is now. I have a question for you because my opinion on the ending changes on a historical answer. When Lincoln was shot, 2 questions. Was it pretty close to after the 13th Amendment passed? And do we know if John Wilkes Booth's motivations were related to the passing of the 13th Amendment? Do you know, Jeffrey?
Yes, I believe it was related to the passing of the 13th Amendment. If not directly, then John Wilkes Booth was a staunch supporter of the Confederacy and believed in their cause, and Lincoln stood for everything that he was against.
Okay.
And so I think thematically it's appropriate. Like it makes sense that they would include that in the movie, showing that his actions have consequences, many good consequences, like necessary consequences, but his actions also have tragic consequences, and those were a risk that he was willing to take. Also, I saw this tweet recently. John Wilkes Booth was a famous actor, and he was big, right? He was big, and I saw a tweet comparing it to, imagine if like Matt Damon shot Barack Obama.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, that's what it would have been like back then. It's like, oh, John Wilkes Booth, I loved you, and bam, did you just shoot the president?
You're dang right I did. Well, the reason I asked that because I feel like, I don't know, something we probably should have said at the beginning of the movie. This movie was, even though it's a biopic of Abraham Lincoln, it very much centered around the years ending of the Civil War and getting the 13th Amendment made. It was all about the pressure of like, we need to get the 13th Amendment passed before the Civil War ends, because if the Civil War ends, no one's going to want the 13th Amendment passed. They're not going to care. So we need to get it done now. So it's really this time crunch of this one kind of 2 events in the war, get the 13th Amendment passed, which I loved. Again, going back to Steven Spielberg. No, I'm so sorry. Going back to Steve Jobs, where that biopic, they chose with the moments they chose to show. It was 3 moments before really big Apple launches. They chose moments that were stripped back and showed us the humanity or the inside working of Steve Jobs instead of the glitz and glamour. And that was just brilliant storytelling. With this, I think this worked really well because it was still very big and bombastic, but it was very focused. I don't think I would have liked a biopic of like, oh, young Abe, he chopped down the cherry tree and he's Honest Abe. And then he went to college and became a lawyer, blah, 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 blah. I'm happy that we focused on such a specific, huge, his not just career defining, his human defining moment of what he did. I liked it a lot. And so my point is, I didn't know how quickly his assassination followed the 13th Amendment passing, and I didn't know if the assassination was tied to the 13th Amendment passing. It sounds like it was, so I'm more okay with it. But personally, we all know Abraham Lincoln was killed. Everyone in the world knows it. It's kind of like the whole conversation we had about superhero movies. We don't need to show Peter Parker being bit by the spider. Personally, I just don't think we needed to show Abraham Lincoln being killed. And we didn't. We didn't physically show it. But the point is, I don't think we needed it at all. I think it could have been a nice ending of like, he got it passed. And then you have like kind of a sad nod, foreshadowing to what all the audience knows is going to happen, but we don't actually have it. I think I would have preferred that type of ending.
I agree. That's sort of what I was saying earlier. It would have been bittersweet if they had ended the movie with him walking down that hallway, right? He's done what he set out to do. He's walking towards that window, almost towards the light, right? We know where he's going, but he's accomplished this wonderful thing. Yeah, I think that would have been more effective and something that we hadn't really seen before.
Yep, I fully agree. There's something about, especially when the entire world knows what happens to Abraham Lincoln. There's something nice about this. It's very poignant about having that restraint of not showing the death, but we all know where he's going, and there's something. It's almost sadder.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know what happened to Abe Lincoln. I haven't finished the biography yet.
Well, let me just say, Matt Damon, bam.
No, not Matt Damon.
Have you seen Terminator?
Have I seen? Did you just ask me if I've seen Terminator?
I did.
We just watched the Terminator for an episode several weeks ago.
Well, good. So you've seen it and you're familiar with the plot. So Matt Damon is the Terminator, but he gets sent back and he assassinates Abraham Lincoln. Boom. $1 billion movie idea.
Okay, here's a movie idea, right? John Wilkes Booth.
The musical.
He's taken into the future, right? And he's shown this terrible vision of the future, such that this, like, imagine Hitler, but times 11. And the only way to prevent that future from taking place by returning to his original time and killing Lincoln. But then, like, it's an act that has no glory attached to it, because once he does this, that future is averted. And he'll just be known as the guy that killed Lincoln.
I could totally see that, because I could definitely see it being like a melodramatic of like an artsy actor who just wants to act and he loves acting, but now he's like tasked with this political assassination. And he's like, no, I just like my art form. I don't want to kill someone.
And then at the end of the movie, he's walking down that hallway, and we know that he's done something great. But it's going to end in tragedy. It could mirror this movie. It could be the sequel.
It could be the sequel. Abraham Lincoln 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Where were we? We're doing good commentary, but then we're going on these tangents as well that I've been enjoying greatly. But
I feel like that's what we got to do with this episode. I mean, it's a good movie and it's worth a watch and it's worth discussing. But there's only so much you can discuss when it's like, okay, they had great acting, they had great dialogue. Something that we can discuss is I don't know how much. I assume this is true. I didn't know how like much Abe Lincoln was a storyteller and how much he made jokes. It was fun with how much he just like would tell these really crazy stories and jokes that sometimes were not applicable at all.
He was famous for his stories, and he would always take any excuse whatsoever to share an anecdote with people, and it got on some people's nerves, right?
Oh yeah.
And we saw that in the movie where one guy's like, not another one of your stories, right? This is not the time for stories. But he was a very effective communicator. He learned it from his dad, right? His dad would tell a lot of stories around the campfire to his coworkers. Lincoln would practice as a kid. He'd go into the woods and he'd practice telling stories himself, building tension in a scene. And then he would go on to wow his dad's coworkers himself. Very big part of his personality that was very well captured in this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. He at some moments reminded me of my own grandfather. Like he would just tell these stories and then burst out laughing himself, regardless of other people were laughing, and just would like interrupt and just be like, I'm going to tell the story now. I don't care if you want to listen or not. And I loved it. Okay, a scene I want to talk about. Oh,
sorry,
no, you go first.
Before you do that, he very literally had a book of jokes that he would just enter into his assistant's rooms at like 3 a.m. He's like, hey, you should hear this joke, right?
I feel like someone should file with HR if the president is coming into your room at 3 a.m. to wake you up and be like, you want to hear this joke, little Timmy? Let me tell you this joke. That is upsetting. But I mean, he kind of did that with who was it? His son? I could not figure out who was who in this movie.
It's probably
when he woke
like an
up the
assistant.
person in the night.
It was at 3 a.m. I think it's Nicolay.
Was that his son?
Not his son, just an assistant.
Well, I like to think that they were gay, not Lincoln and him, but like he woke up his assistant, and then there was another dude in a bed right next to it, and it felt like, remember in like the late 1990s when they had movies, or like not more like the 1970s, with like black and white movies where it was too sexual to show a husband and wife sleeping in beds together, so they just put them in separate beds. That was like a whole thing for a long time. It's just like no one needs to know not sex. I'm not talking about sex. It's like sleeping in the bed. They wouldn't show that. They just put them in separate beds. That's like a innocent type thing. But I like the idea because he goes into his assistant's room and wakes him up, and he wakes up this other dude in the room just right next to him in a twin side bed 3 feet away. So I really like to imagine those two are gay lovers.
Yeah, let's write that fan fiction and turn it into a screenplay.
It's the real.
That'll be Lincoln 3.
It's the real progressive story we needed. Yeah, it was cool to end the movie when what was the guy's cool name? Timmy
Thaddeus Stevens.
Thaddeus Stevens. We find out, he was secretly married to an African American lady. That's so cool and progressive. I want to find out that assistant was secretly having gay sex with that other assistant. That's the progressive story.
That would be funny if like that were the scene we got instead of that moment, because it just bears no relation to the events of the movie whatsoever. He just goes to bed to his husband, kisses him on the lips, and
that would actually be amazing. That would be really funny.
So we passed the 13th Amendment. Yay! They're both just white guys.
Just two white gay guys. Beautiful. If they only lived another 100-something years, they would have made it to a better time. But I was going to say something, and Jeffrey interrupted me. Oh, I remember. No, I'm kidding. But a scene I want to talk about, it almost made my holy moment, but it didn't quite. But it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Lincoln gets woken up. I think this is the scene. I know the scene, but I'm trying to remember the context of the scene. Basically, it's late at night, and it's Lincoln, and it's the Morse code Adam Driver, who plays like someone in the military that receives Morse code information from the battlefield. And then I guess that guy's assistant. So it's 3 dudes. And Lincoln's just talking so casually with them. And what does he ask them? Like, do you believe that we were born with a purpose or
he begins the conversation with a talk of like Euclid's like notions, these propositions that are always and everywhere true regarding mathematics and logic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he was like talking about math, and one of them was an engineer, and I just love like how this is something I loved about this movie was like this. I mean, 100 years ago, like climate and political like stuff has changed since then. But this is the president of the United States. And just like the most common people are coming up to him and talking to him, and he's visiting people and talking to these commoners. And I just love that he's talking to these 2 dudes, just like presumably at 3 a.m., just them shooting the shit and talking philosophy and talking what the point of life is. And it was really beautiful that he took this time with them. And then he got up and he like patted each of them on the shoulder, like a very tenderly way. I thought it just was such a great characterization of who Abraham Lincoln was. And definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Very down to earth, very relational person. And he gave everyone their due respect. Like you couldn't come out of an interaction with Lincoln without having felt respected, right? Unless, y'all were very ideologically opposed, right? And you were looking for reasons to hate on him, which I mean, a lot of people did. Good acting, good writing.
Good acting, good writing.
And for the audience at home, you don't understand. We just cut out like 30 seconds of silence.
Yeah, we did. I appreciate when I'm not the host and I could just be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. It's Jeffrey's task to say something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, music was good.
Yeah, it was John Williams. Also, a
Yeah,
name that I was not surprised to see in the credits.
yeah, and he always puts out bangers, as today's youth say. Um, I think bangers is old slang. What are kids saying nowadays? Like skibbity.
Skibbity. Well, maybe before we do our holy moments, if we are going to say this was filled with good acting and great writing, this might dive a little bit into our holy moments. But really quick, what was the best acting and what was the best writing in this movie for you, Jeffrey?
Best acting and best writing. I would say, well, Daniel Day-Lewis is always excellent in everything that he does. Thaddeus Stevens leaves the most impression, right, on the audience, I think. That would be Tommy Lee Jones as Thaddeus Stevens. And I think that it's partially just the character that he plays is such a spitfire. But he was always incredibly entertaining to watch, but also believable. Maybe it's tied. Maybe it's tied between the two. Maybe as far as nuance goes, Daniel Day-Lewis takes the cake. But as far as like hell yeah moments, Thaddeus Stevens, Tommy Lee Jones.
I would agree with that. I would agree that maybe the better actor maybe was David Day-Lewis, but it also could he's just the main character, so there's more to work with. But Thaddeus or Tommy Lee Jones was just so fun to watch. What about like writing? What scene particularly really you thought was written really well? Whether it's because it was the dialogue or because of how it's written, action and execution wise.
Oh yeah. Again, this is not a dialogue heavy scene, which is crazy for this film. But it's just that cart, right, filled with the legs, and watching that play out. Watch Robert satisfy his curiosity and then make this gruesome discovery, and then just seeing him deal with that. It was an incredibly well done scene, the most cinematic scene.
I would agree that it felt the most cinematic.
What about you?
I think best written. I really liked. If I remember correctly, it was kind of it was Lincoln with his cabinet, kind of in his war room, and this is supposed to be his cabinet. The people that are supposed to back him, and they're all getting antsy. They're like, "Why are we trying to pass the 13th Amendment right now? It's not the time. We should do it later." Like even though they all agreed we want this passed, this just isn't the time. And Abe Lincoln is just like, I am so mother effing tired of everyone doubting that we can do this. And he goes on this great, great speech of like, we cannot, I want to do so many great things. I have so many ideas. We're going to make this a better country. We cannot fundamentally even begin to do them until we wipe the scourge of slavery off of the map. It was a great acted scene, but better than that, I think it was a better written scene. Just when you have a large group of cast and there's like 8 guys in this room and they're back and forth, I think it's hard to do as a writer to capture that momentum and to make everyone seem believable, and then to have Abraham Lincoln sound convincing to come in with this great, almost not monologue. It's almost this great monologue about why he is doing it. I thought was just beautifully written. And as far as best acted, there's a good handful of scenes, but for one, I'm going to mention it now because it almost was my holy moment, but it's not, so I'm going to mention it here. Loved the scene because it felt different than almost everything else. Where halfway through the movie-ish, Mr. Lincoln and Mrs. Lincoln get into a big fight. And she basically, as Abraham Lincoln gave in, he let his son go to war. And Mrs. Lincoln is freaking the frick out. And she's like, if my son dies, another son dies, and because you let him go to war, you're going to have a lot bigger issue than any of these politics. I'm going to flip the fuck out on you, is basically what she told him. And I just loved their acting. And I just loved how desperate she was. And I loved how he felt so deep in that moment. I'm not judging either of them. Like, it's a tragic thing they're going through. But she let all her emotions out. She was crying. She was on the ground. And he just felt like he said, do you not think that I'm grieving too? Do you not think that I'm a cavern, an empty cavern, grieving for the death of our son and what our nation is going through right now? But I have to be strong. I have to keep going. And I thought their dynamic was very different than everything else got in the movie. And I love the honesty and the hardship that this couple went through. The good things they did and the hardship they went through together. And I love that acting.
Oh yeah, that was a really powerful scene. I think that their acting chemistry was very good, very believable.
Yeah. If it was a different movie, you could put a scene in there where they jump each other's bones, or they're screaming at each other, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, her corset's flying off.
What's the scene from Marriage Story, a movie that I haven't seen? Is like Every morning I wake up and I wish you were dead. Boom.
I haven't seen Marriage Story either. Another movie I really want to watch on the podcast.
Yeah, have you seen that clip though? Are you familiar?
No, I'm not. It's
Ah,
Adam Driver who is in this movie.
yeah, he does great. It's a small role. He plays a guy,
Plays a guy.
which like he does that well because he's also a guy.
It's true because it was good writing and good acting.
Well, anyway, folks, I think now's the time, that pivotal moment, that holy moment, where we, I guess, divulge our holy moments for this movie. And I'm gonna begin with you, Nathaniel, and then I'll follow.
I need to start with audience. If you're not watching the live video, you need to because Jeffrey looks extremely gay right now. And I love Jeffrey. He's like one of my closest friends in the entire world. And just that hat, real gay. But good thing, Jeffrey, you don't live back in the 1800s because they would burn you at the stake for being gay. So congratulations for living in the 21st century.
Well, thanks, I guess.
You're welcome. With that being said, my holy moment, I thought a lot about this and I went with my gut reaction. Often I want to ruminate. I think I want to look for themes and connect things and bring a bigger idea, a bigger picture to the movie. But for this movie, with so much great acting, I just went with my gut punch of what was just the best, what moved me the most. And honestly, this probably moved me because I was surprised by it. And it's a very, very simple scene. It's at the very beginning of the movie where Lincoln, we kind of get a taste of what's going on. You know, the war is ending. He's trying to pass the 13th Amendment. I think he just got into a spat with his wife and he leaves the room. And we're like, where's he going? It's bedtime. That's his room. Where's he heading? And he goes to this dimly lit room by a fireplace. And his son, presumably, is asleep on the ground. And Lincoln just stares at him for a moment. And he gets down. He's tall. He's like 6'8". He's a tall, lanky dude. He gets down on all fours and then on the ground. And he puts an arm around his son. And I was like, oh, that's very cute. He's gonna nap with his son, I guess. And then he wakes his son up. And his son crawls on his back like a monkey. And then Abraham Lincoln stands up and carries him on his back. To the point where they have clearly done this before. It is not a one-off thing. The son is dead sleep. He's tired. He's asleep. He's out. And Abraham Lincoln shuffles him, rubs his shoulders, and the son, half asleep, crawls onto his dad's back. And I thought it was the most pulled back human moment we got with Abraham Lincoln. This tender, and I feel like it sets up his character great for the rest of the movie. This tender person with no matter how much is going on, no matter how much stress is on his shoulders, no matter how much people are against him, he's going to be there and care tenderly and patiently for the people he loves. And the physicality of it was just, the beauty in how he cared for his son in that moment absolutely floored me with that physicality of getting on the ground and not picking up his son, not bending over, not waking his son up saying it's time for bed, laying stomach face to the floor and saying, get on me and I'll carry you. What a beautiful way of storytelling without any words. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, carrying the weight of the world, carrying the weight of the future. Honest, I mean, he's carrying his son, right? And this is the world that he's creating is the world that his son will inherit.
And he does it in silence. He does it without complaining, without grumbling. He does it with a dignity to him. And I was absolutely I love that scene. And that got me into the movie right away. Right away.
And it's good to have moments like that early on that can get you invested in a movie, especially when it is so dialogue heavy. I'll say to the point of focus, like, this was a very focused movie. And I'm really happy you brought that up earlier because, yes, it's a lot of talking, but it all has a purpose. It's all moving towards something. And there is a sense of urgency that even though this movie's long, it still feels as though time is short, even if it doesn't make the film feel any shorter. You know, and that's, am I going to say that my holy moment is the focus of this story? No, I don't think so. I'll just point to that moment that I've been pointing to throughout the podcast, and that's been a theme these past few episodes. The cart with the amputated legs and arms. It lends gravity to the war, to the moment. This has been happening for years. These aren't the first limbs to have been lost in this conflict, and they're probably not even the last. But the onus is on the people at the top to end it, like, now, on just terms. Because there is a world in which they had surrendered and slavery still existed. That was not an option for Abraham, though. And so seeing just the weight of that, I think it was really well executed.
it's not lost on me for a movie that is a lot of talking. You and I both chose Holy Moments that has no talking and it's very action based. I think that says a tremendous amount about the medium of film. I'm not saying like we got to go back to the days of talkie or no talkies where there's no dialogue, no talking, black and white. Like I'm not saying that, but there's something profound about film. The medium of film is we can capture the physicality of human beings. When I say action, I don't mean Marvel. I don't mean explosions and aliens. I mean the physicality of the human being moving. And there's something beautiful about that. Because it can be beautiful and hopeful, like picking up your son. There could be something tragic, like dumping out the body parts of wounded or dead soldiers.
Beautifully said. Beautifully put. I guess with that, we're going to move on to our ratings of the film.
I was curious if you're going to remember. I feel like we haven't done this in a minute.
Yeah. Well, we've remembered this time.
Beautiful.
So it's, now is the segment of the podcast where after having glazed a movie for over an hour, we give the most middling review.
Well, I feel like the last few movies you've glazed and I've harshed on, and then I rate higher than you. I mean, it's just Snakes on a Plane and specifically Superman. I cannot believe you rated it lower than me. That is insane.
The thing is, I think that emotionally, my reaction to the movie, I think that I did enjoy the movie more than you. But I think that how we were visualizing our rankings in our minds and what that translates to is different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. Well, 1 out of 5. I'm giving this movie 3. I've decided it's not getting my normal 3.5. I'm sorry. It was well done, Steven Spielberg. It was well acted. I do not want to rewatch it, even though it was greatly acted. A little too long. Great story. Feel like it could have been shorter, and it kept my interest. It did. It wasn't boring, but it just wasn't enough. Even though it was beautiful cinematography and beautiful acting, so it was good. So it gets a 3.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because I'm all about that like long and quote unquote boring. It's just the kind of movie I like being pretentious.
Ain't that cinema, baby?
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, hey, I gave Snakes on a Plane a 4, so that just shows where my priorities are with what cinema is. Transformers 3, baby.
Woo! We should make that maybe your wild card
for season 3.
Season.
I've been thinking about guys. The season's almost over. I blinked and it's over. That's crazy. We have 3 more. We have 2 more on my end, and Jeffrey, we know what your pick is for 2 weeks from now. You're getting Total Recall. It's your last movie of the season,
which I'm stoked for. I like that movie leagues more than Terminator, so I'm excited for Nathaniel to see it for the first time. Speaking of nearly the end of the season.
Hey audience. Why haven't you sent an email to us yet?
Ends the episode. It would be cool before the end of the season. Someone sends us an email. That'd be pretty rad. You can reach us at theholymomentpodcast@gmail.com. Send us hate mail, send us love, send us a recipe for better banana bread. Because last week I talked about how I made bad banana bread. Send us whatever you're feeling. But yeah, guys, we're making a community of film lovers where we want to engage. To make movies, you need to know movies. You need to know what people like. And we want to become iron sharpens iron. We want to be better about it. We want to talk about, do you like Total Recall because there's 3 boobs in it? Or do you find it not artful? Tell us what's really on your mind. But yeah, I guess that means I'm hosting next week. I still have 2 movies that can be picked. I'm kind of hoping that Come and See, this movie I'm scared to watch because I think it's going to be a super dark, depressing war movie. I hope it ends up being the last movie of this season. So I'm hoping next week is Punch Drunk Love, which would be Vegas' pick.
I'm hoping that too. And the great thing about it too is the audience. We don't have to screen record anything. Maybe we can fudge some.
Fun fact: we have never fudged the system of the movies. We have always spun something or flipped something. So we must start now. Jeffrey he's being a politician in this episode, trying to lie and manipulate. Well,
you've got to compromise sometimes.
Well, I'm going to spin. Let's see if we can get Punch Drunk Love. It's going.
Punch.
It's Punch Drunk Love. That means Come and See will in fact be the last episode of the season. Well, sweet. Well, guys, I guess this is the end of the episode. Next week come, yeah. Now this is Vega's pick. So we originally had a third co-host when we started the podcast, our friend Vega. He cannot be here, so we let him have a whole category to himself called Vega's pick. And for me, he picked Punch Drunk Love. I believe it's starring Adam Sandler. I think it's like a comedy, romance, maybe question mark drama. I don't know. So I'm excited to watch it next week. But until then, Jeffrey, take us on out of here.
All right, folks, you can find us at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but we post the full podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Again, our email is theholymomentpodcast@gmail.com. Thank y'all for being fantastic. We will see you next week.